Public Meetings Act. Notice this meeting has been provided by advertisement, the Cape May Star and Wave, the Herald, on the Township website, and has been posted on the bulletin board of Township Hall.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad.
Here.
Councilmember Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Simonson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Beck.
Here. Before we go to tonight's consent agenda, we have a friend who's been here on numerous occasions, Mr. Maloney. He has an update on the life-saving station reconstruction project that he is endeavoring to accomplish down at Sunset Beach, in which the township is assisting him. And like I said, parentheses, any way we can. And there's a little model up here, as you can readily see, of what the life-saving station will ultimately look like. I mean, the model itself, I think he'll explain, is a work of art. You know, I can't wait to see the finished product. So I'll ask Kevin to take the microphone. And I believe his wife Sandy's here. Hi, Sandy. So feel free to tell us what you've got going on down there, Kevin. In 1,000 words or less. Yeah, that was part of your time, too.
Mayor, thank you, and Deputy Mayor, council members, Manager Vole, and the township clerks. Yeah, thank you so much for your continued support and encouragement. You know, for what we feel is going to be, you know, one of the jewels in the crown and for the Township of Lower. We know that our maritime heritage this is where it all began in Township of Lower, and this will be just one more representation for that, you know, for that proud heritage that we certainly enjoy. Yeah, I'd like to introduce the fellow who was responsible for donating and building this most beautifully a half-inch scale of the 1876 life-saving station and park, and this is Bob Stork, and Bob is. Just one of those, just one of the one of the special people, you know, who are helping to make, you know, this vision of bringing this station back to our community alive. And we've received a number of, you know, of grassroots support from the community. Lynn Martinstein is here, and she recently hosted an event from the Cape May Cottagers, the Women Advisory Board, where they presented a check to us at the site, and that is just again an affirmation that you know, that this is truly going to have, you know, to have value, you know, and to our community. It certainly will be a place, you know, for tourism and so forth, but we feel mainly it's going to be part of a gathering place for our community that we can be proud of. And at different celebrations, we mentioned September 11th coming up, Memorial Day, the 4th of July fireworks should be, you know, tremendous to be able to visualize or witness those from that area. We were in suspense here. We really didn't know how you know, how we would proceed. This is at the Higbee Beach site, which is a it's, you know, it's a wildlife management area, and it's an open spaces facility. And as an open spaces, it required a CAFRA permit, which took over 2 years, and the application fee was almost $50,000, which was waived. It required an environmental impact assessment that Michael Crew did, and that he did that as a donation as well. Recently, well, not recently, but on April 30th, after many revisions to the application, and again, the application was donated by our surveyor, Gary Thomas, who's Thomas Amy Shaw. on April 30th, we received the CAFR permit to move forward and construct this. And so we are looking at, part of the, I guess part of the mandate for open spaces is to enhance public access. And by enhancing public access, we're planning to have a boardwalk, and which will be ADA compliant. We're also going to be installing beautiful split rail fences that will delineate the beach paths and so forth. And we'll also have signage. And by having these well-defined paths, we will enhance public access, but we're also going to be able to enhance the natural habitat for wildlife and vegetation by protecting those dune areas. So it's going to have a benefit there. After the April 30th, we really started to move forward with the planning for the construction or the reconstruction. And again, it is the most beautiful replica. It was architected by J. Lake Parkinson for the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia and Fairmount Park. At the conclusion, it was moved right down here to Township of Lower, out at the Sunset Beach area. So to reconstruct this is we feel is going to be just again a tremendous benefit to the community. We know that the life-saving service evolved into the Coast Guard as well. So the Coast Guard, we're meeting with Captain Prestige next week, and the Coast Guard is this is part of their history and their tradition, and they want to help with the reenactments and so forth. So, and we know the beautiful sunsets there. It's just tremendous. One of the other visions is to partner with the Humes. Marvin Hume and Larry and Michelle are very, very supportive of this. They do the flag lowering ceremonies, in the evenings, and they use the flags from the fallen servicemen and women. And it's very patriotic, and I think very, it's again a reflection of who we are as a community here. And we're part of the apparatus. We have a cannon. It's a Lyle gun, so we're planning to shoot the cannon off and blow taps. And again, it should be, a good experience for us. And we'll also have other reenactments for the, with the Coast Guard, participating in that. So they want to do that. But again, it's part of all of us, and it's again, I think the main place would be a beautiful gathering place for our community to celebrate our proud history and tradition. There are a number of service surfmen, they call them, and keepers that they went out and they didn't come back. I mean, this was very patriotic and very moving. So we know the history, and I'm going to run out of time here, so I can't tell you too much about the part of the history in the William Newell Act and how he was instrumental, along with Abraham Lincoln, to appropriate and legislate funds to build these stations initially. So again, that's part of part of who we are there. So again, I'd like to thank you. Where we are now with the station is Mitchell Nicholson, who's an excavator. He came down with 2 huge excavation machines, and part of the mandate as well, or part of the deal was that we were going to remove a lot of the derelict pipes. There were some jagged metal, bulkheads, and there were pipes there, and so it's not completely done. You should know that, but we've just started that. So that they've removed I don't know how many dump loads of derelict concrete and so forth, and it's really they've leveled it, and so if you've been down there, if you would like to go take a walk down there, it's just been really enhanced. Media in Motion donated a sign so that so that visitors can get an idea of what this is going to look like. We know, like Sunset Boulevard, for example, that some of the traffic there is pretty hazardous at times. We're going to be installing a 19,000 square foot additional parking area, so that'll help the pedestrians and so forth. They're going to put a temporary restroom facilities, and I can go on and on. So, but I think you're going to really like this. And again, we're all volunteers as well. So, and so it's again, I want to thank the council. They've been terrific in the support here from the manager of all as well. So, thank you. Thank you.
Kevin? Did you mention your fundraiser? You don't know? You don't want to bring it up, or?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah. We're looking at right now, because this is a replica, it's not a historic, so we really don't qualify right now for any types of grants from a historic perspective. So we're looking at private funding. We're going to be, talking to different corporations. We're looking for corporate sponsors. For example, General Electric, who I worked for, they make the jet engines for some of these fast boats for the Coast Guard. And again, this is part of the Coast Guard. We're looking at Drescher, who had the magnesite plant. We're talking to them, and maybe they can help to clean up and so forth. Greg Coffey, who owns the Seaview Tavern, on October the 4th is having a crab and beer festival. It's called Crabapalooza. And he's going to be donating all the proceeds, not the profits, all the proceeds to make this happen. So that's just one reflection. Thank you, Mayor, for reminding me. Yeah, so thank you
Fine.
again.
Thank you for sharing that with us, and we wish you well, and whatever we can do, we will do. You know, that's obvious. Okay.
So thank you again.
Now, you better take that model home, or that'll be in Mike Voll's train set. His Christmas trains will be rolling around that thing. Okay. Okay, we move down to the consent agenda. Is there any council comments on the consent agenda? Open up to public comment on the consent agenda. Does anybody have public comment on the consent agenda? Yes, this fine young man up front here.
Good evening, Ed Butler from the Village. 2014-243, as far as small cities grant. What's right now? What's it going to be used for? Is there any set thing, or is it just a matter of accumulating it to 74 and then using it for whatever in the township?
It's for the rec center, is it not? It's for ADA improvements there.
All right, so that would go into the next one.
To remove the architectural barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 244, so that's what it's going to be used for down the road.
Yes.
And that's the only thing for the rec center. Nothing else will be used from that 274.
You keep saying 274. Is it 240?
243.
243. I'm looking for 247 or 274.
$274,000
Yes.
is what she applied for, is what she's applying for.
I'll try to be a little more clear when I'm.
That's all right. It says, yeah, it's for handicapped accessibility at the Township Recreation Complex.
I thought a lot of that was done before over there. There's been a lot of money going to ADA over there.
I think some of it was done. We did have some work done, and I think the doors in the front.
Yeah, there's more work to be done there to be in compliance with the American Disabilities Act. So she's applied for this. We haven't received it yet.
Right.
But that's a designation strictly over there for it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions about the consent agenda? Close the public portion.
Approval of the New Jersey State Firemen's membership application for Raymond C. Letts to the Villas Fire Company. Approval of minutes, August 18th, 2014. Resolutions number 2014-239 through 2014-251.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second?
I move. I'll second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
To the regular agenda.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2014-10, a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Lower in the County of Cape May, New Jersey, appropriating $1,312,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,235,000 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. This is the second reading and public hearing on this ordinance. This ordinance has been published, posted on the Township Bulletin Board, and made available to the public.
Okay, council comments on this ordinance? Open up for public comment on this ordinance. I close the public portion. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. Now, before we go to council comments, I had spoken, a couple issues had come up, and I'd asked the solicitor to fill us in. One of the key ones that we need to talk about is the upcoming school referendum. And I think this is of huge importance to the town. And if you could give us a little schematic on it, Ron, and then we'll go from there.
I can, just to bring the council up to speed on where we are in the process and what has happened recently and what is in the near foreseeable future. On August 28th, the Lower Cape May Regional School Board passed a resolution which approved the actual ballot question that pertains to changing the funding formula from one that is based on property values, real estate assessments, to one that is based on how many pupils a municipality sends to a school. That ballot will be on the general election, which will occur on November 4th, and it is a referendum. It's a public question. The vote to pass that will be a majority vote in each municipality. The second thing that's happened recently is that the New Jersey Department of Education has set the special election date for the other referendum question, and that is the question of dissolution or withdrawal from the Lower Cape May Regional School District by the city of Cape May. That will occur on December 9th, and that election will be from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. There's no ballot question that I've seen yet. That's to be determined. That vote will require a majority in the withdrawing district and a majority in all three of the districts. So we're at the point now where the council and the public is presented with a referendum with a public question. So one issue is what can council do in terms of advocating their position or the council member positions or the council as a whole. And the answer to that question is quite clear. You can advocate to your heart's content, but you cannot spend any public funds in advocacy either way. Public funds can be spent on for informational purposes that are balanced and present the facts, but they can't cross the line where they become advocacy, requesting a person to vote one way or the other. As long as we're at a public meeting and the opposition, if there is any, has the opportunity to present their case, the use of a public forum, such as a council meeting, even though that would be a small expense to the township to run the meeting, would be an acceptable expenditure because the other side is provided the opportunity to present their case.
So we could, in other words, we can present the facts, but we can't, and we can take a stance. The township can present the facts. The township as a whole can't you spend money to take a stand on it.
The township can spend money to present the facts.
Present the facts.
The township cannot spend money to advocate one way or the other.
Well, the fact is, like for instance, the average, this is a fact, the average Lower Township house would see an increase of $427 if this passes, correct?
That's correct, and that's a fact.
That's a fact.
Determined by
Right.
By an independent analysis, the school board, and there's, in fact, that's on the ballot question itself.
And those kinds of things we can say, and we can actually, probably the township could, if we wanted to do.
We can say vote no from here, but we can't buy signs to put on lawns to say that.
But
that's exactly correct.
Well, we could do a 911 call, a reverse 911 call, a robocall, and present the facts. And the fact would be, attention residents, that if a yes vote results from this referendum, your taxes will go up $427.87. That's a fact.
If that's a true fact, and again, that information appears on the ballot
if
question.
you vote no and it carries the day, your taxes will remain the same. You know, it's important that we do this out in the open so people understand exactly where we're at with this. I mean, there's certain things we just can't do. I mean, we have to be careful. If we use the reverse 911 service, I think council's all on the same page with this. And can we pass a resolution encouraging a no vote?
You can.
Okay. Well, then I think that's something that we would want to prepare. Is everybody on board with that?
Has there already been money used to buy such signs to tell people how to vote?
I don't know if
I
there
believe
ha-
there was a year ago.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's
This is
before-
going back a year ago before, in a different
'Cause
referendum.
I remember specifically at the ethical class that we had, I think I was sitting next to Julie, that's they use that as a specific example not to do. So
Right, if there has been, they obviously won't be used.
Yeah, I think they're put asleep somewhere. I forget where, but that was like over a year ago when it first began and before we had any indication. I'm not even sure if that would have been the same kind of a ballot question.
I think we were misdirected by the prior solicitor.
Well, I don't know. I just know that we don't, where they're at is another story altogether.
They're not going to be used. So
They're not
They
going to
won't
be
be
used. It's a
used,
moot
no.
point. It doesn't matter.
They won't be used, so
No.
there's no advocacy there, so it's.
Okay. And it's a different, like I said, it's a different date, different election, the whole 9 yards. So it's something that's not this one. Anyway, to get back to this, and I just want to clarify this because I think it's important. What we don't want to do is create a situation where somebody in another jurisdiction could use our actions as a reason or a basis to appeal a no vote. Okay, I don't want somebody to turn around. We obviously have the population. We obviously have in my belief, the issue on our side. And I'm anticipating a positive result for the town. But I don't want to give somebody the opportunity to turn around and say, well, this is the reason that occurred, and to file some kind of an appeal if they don't like the decision at the ballot. So we're going to be super careful with this, and whatever we do, we'll make sure that it goes through the different attorneys that we have that are on this. But in a conference call with Frank Campbell and myself and our solicitor, it's obvious that we can do a resolution with council's permission that basically encourages a no vote from our residents, because that's not expenditure of funds. Where if we go out and buy signs, if we send a mailer out, if we do some other activities that involve spending money, we can't do that. Now, that does not mean that a private citizen can't do that. Is that correct?
That's correct. The theory is that public funds belong to the public. They belong to everyone.
Yes.
Then you can't spend that money advocating on one side or the other, because the folks that are on the opposite side of that question have an equal right,
Right.
to
I
those
got it.
funds. So as long as you're not expending any money, that's the bright line rule, and that's what needs to be
Right.
followed.
So if we did like a robocall and said, please come out and vote no, that would be advocating, and that would be impermissible. But if we did a robocall that says,
just get out and vote.
well, I don't even know we can encourage them to go out and vote. What we can say is that basically the results of this election will result in one of two things. A yes, if this election comes out in a positive yes way, you will be paying $427 more in taxes per year. If it comes out as a no, your taxes remain the same, your school taxes.
Right, that would be
Something like that. That's just an informational
That's right.
period.
And again, that would be a verbalization of what appears on the ballot question.
Yes. And that's
Consequences of
that,
a no
and we're
vote.
allowed to send information out. What we can't do is use township funds, and I get that. So with townships, with the council's permission, we'll at least do the resolution. Okay? Is everybody on with that?
Yeah.
You okay with that? You're all right with that? Eric, you okay with that one?
You want that on the regular
comment.
agenda?
No comment?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
Well,
Yeah,
Eric's protecting himself,
yeah.
Oh, he's
he has
not-
to
working
abstain.
for the school system.
Okay, all right.
So we'll put it on the regular agenda.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this is, let me just say, it's, and we can say this, I mean, this is important. I mean, as all elections are, I think people need to I strongly encourage the township residents, I think council does, to educate themselves, to read on this, to make a determination that what's in their interest and the interests of the schools. The impact on this will go far beyond simply financial situation. Okay? All right. And the second update I would like you to do, because this came out and the township had been going to the local finance board, and I would ask you to do a little update. The minutes were released last week from our original hearing back in July, and maybe you could give us a couple odds and ends on that.
Okay, just by way of background, a general overview of again, where we've been. The three ordinances that were introduced, the ordinance for the dissolution and the ordinance for assuming the MUA services, were introduced on June 2nd. Was ordinance number 2014-06 and 2014-07. The third ordinance, which was the bond ordinance assuming the debt obligations of the MUA, ordinance number 2014, was introduced on June 16th. We appeared, I appeared, various members of the governing body appeared, and officials as well as our special counsel appeared at the local finance board hearing on July 16th, and the township presented its case for the approval of the dissolution. As you mentioned, Mayor, those minutes of that hearing were recently released. I believe they're posted on the local finance board website. At the hearing on July 16th, the MUA had presented a technical argument. It was not provided in advance to the local finance board, nor was it provided to the township in advance. Because of that, the local finance board needed time to adjourn and consider that information. They did so, and they adjourned that meeting to the next local finance board hearing date, which was on August 13th. Additional submissions were made in rebuttal by the township, and the local finance board unanimously approved the dissolution. Now, what that means is the local finance board determined that the elements under the statute were satisfied, NJSA 40A:5A-20, and that is specifically that the township was able to assume and had assumed all of the debt obligations of the MUA. And as Mayor, you pointed out on other occasions, the township is already the guarantor for any monies that are owed by the MUA. The taxpayer, all taxpayers of the township are on the hook for that money. The second element of statute was that the township has made adequate provision for the assumption of services. Now, the local finance board went a little bit further beyond that, the two statutory elements, and in their resolution, at least verbally at that hearing, and the resolution is not available yet. I believe we checked as of 4:30 this afternoon. It was not available. But in that resolution, the local finance board is adding a little caveat, a condition to the approval, and that is that the surplus of the MUA will not be touched. It will remain the surplus in a dedicated fund, only to be used for purposes of water and sewer. The ordinances, all three ordinances, the clerk reports to me, have been duly published, and a public hearing is scheduled for September 15th, which is the next council meeting, so it is literally right around the corner. So if there's any, at least, and we have a group of professionals working for the township in various specialties. We also have special legal counsel, but at least if there's any legal questions out there remaining to be answered or discussed, I'll be willing to handle those, or at least direct them to our special counsel. And I think that Mr. Voll can direct any other questions to the various professionals that have worked on this dissolution application. Mayor, I know you have a copy of the minutes, and there was some interesting discussion by the local finance board chairman, Mr. Neff, and various board members They did draw attention to the township's analysis, the report prepared by Mr. Schwartz, that the local finance board auditors found or were in agreement with it. I am told by other attorneys who regularly appear in front of the finance board on such matters that the fact that the local finance board did not request any additional information or documentation from the township was a good thing. That means that we've had a good, complete, thorough analysis, and everything was done appropriately.
We were out front with all our information. We had it up there weeks in advance. The MUA walked in on meeting day, correct me if I'm wrong, read their report, and then gave their report to the board.
They did, and you were there, Mayor. I was there. And
They
one
were,
of the,
to say they were angry would be an understatement.
One of the board members was, he said, look, I can't digest that thrown at me like that, a technical analysis. I recall Chairman Neff called it disingenuous.
Yes.
To bring that to the local finance board without any
Without
forewarning,
providing copies
it
in advance.
in advance, that's correct.
Right.
Which
And-
caused, I believe, caused the, at least it's my opinion, that's what caused the 30-day adjournment to provide the local finance board time to digest that material.
And it's funny how they focus on things, and it says, like, for instance, this whole issue, this is the board speaking, whether it saves money or not, my gut tells me that it will probably save money. And we have, the board minutes are online, so anybody can access them. I mean, anybody sitting here can go to the local finance board, state of New Jersey, go to the specific date, and the minutes are there. So this isn't secret information. This is where we go, this is one of the steps that we have to take in order to make the MUA a department within the township. If this board had said, no, you cannot do so, then we would have been stopped right there. But they unanimously said that we may proceed. And at the end of it, they talk about the fact, like the one board member says, my gut tells me that we'll probably save money. I wouldn't be surprised it saves more than what's been suggested, and maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But it's not one of our roles to determine whether it saves money or not. They had a two-prong standard. One was whether or not we could handle the bonds, it has no bearing on where we're at. There's no difference. Doesn't put the township in any other jeopardy than it already was in relationship to the finances of the MUA. The second question was whether they felt that we had the capabilities to run this department, and they said they felt that we did, in a unanimous decision. But they go on, they said there's been a good faith effort by the applicant, that's us, to determine that it would save money. Their numbers have been shared openly, and they seem to make sense to our auditor who reviewed them and didn't necessarily question them. And that's where it comes in, that they have an obligation, if they thought our numbers were screwy, to turn around and to challenge what we've put there. But their auditor saw our numbers, and like we said, they seem to make sense to the auditor. And that's the $1 million in savings that has been touted by the township, and we continue to say that. Now, the part that probably is it, and I guess they probably don't understand us, because the MUA lawyer said on numerous occasions in here that the reason we wanted to get our hands on the MUA is to take the surplus. I have that history. I've brought that up here before. There was a move to take the surplus 3 years ago. I'm the only member of council that voted no, I won't take the surplus. We have said repeatedly we will not take the surplus, and it'll be written into the resolution. And I guess it would not dawn on them that we would actually, their theory is that we're trying as a body to take the surplus to balance our township budget. Smoke and mirrors budget is what it would boil down to. We'd be taking from one pocket to kind of glaze over a gap in our budgeting. by using the MUA surplus for our own monies. And we refuse to do that, okay? But I guess it would never dawn on them that our attempt is an honest one to restore to the people who pay those monies the money that's being wasted, all right? They would not fathom that this is an honest effort not to take a surplus. We don't want the surplus. Nobody up here has ever said they would even, you know, that's a guarantee. The money belongs in the stabilization of rates. That's where it's at. You're wasting $1 million right now. And we per year, and we can stop that waste. And the MUA's answer to that is when we talked about that, their answer basically was, well, you know, share some services and we'll give you that money every year and everybody go home. And I mean, it's on page 76. If you look at it, it's like, we'd like to just reiterate the township's objectives, being they creating efficiencies or receiving a reasonable cash infusion. It can be achieved respectfully through enhanced use of shared service agreements and by requesting a 5% cash transfer as permitted by statute. That was never anybody's intent up here, to take money out of the MUA and use it for our purposes. I mean, there's gold in these minutes if people that, especially in the media, want to sit back and look at these things, but those are just two of the things that stand out.
Mayor, I think if you look at this, I was just at the MUA tonight. They had their meeting. They paid this law firm $15,000 plus to come and argue this case that you're talking about. This was their closing argument to the state local finance board, that our MUA paid $15,000 to make this case to and say, don't dissolve the MUA. They also spent over $15,000 with a PR firm to stir up public sentiment against the idea. But here, as they came down to their final statement about why we shouldn't dissolve the MUA, they're basically saying, share some services and take $450,000 of the surplus, which you're entitled to by law each year.
And go home.
And go home.
Yeah.
Take $450,000 of the ratepayer money and put it over into the township budget to save taxpayers and go home. Now that's just plain wrong. And that's absolutely counter to everything we've said from the beginning. When we first introduced this, when the notion of $1 million was saved, and some of us said, well, it's monopoly money, we said, no, it's real money. Why? Because if you keep it in an account, you keep the surplus from the MUA in the surplus of the MUA account, then you can use that money to forestall any rate increases. That's how you stabilize rates. That's how you keep from having to raise rates on people, by keeping the surplus in there, so when you need to spend money on capital, you don't have to raise the rates. You can use your surplus. So that's why we proposed in the beginning to keep all the money in a separate account without any commingling, so that we could protect the ratepayers. Our interests are not trying to create some smoke and mirrors so that we can help the township look better. That's not what we're talking about. It's never been it. And our mayor here is the only one on this council that's, you know, been clear from the beginning, we're not going to touch this ratepayer. This is not why we're doing this. The only reason this came up is because the auditor for the MUA stood here and said, you can save the ratepayers $1 million a year. We couldn't possibly ignore that. $1 million a year. You keep that money in the account, you don't commingle it, and you keep the ratepayers protected. That's what this is about. But they don't get it. I mean, this high-priced attorney that they just agreed to pay $15,000 to show up and make this case, here, take $450,000 of the ratepayers' money and go home. Imagine that. I've never seen such a thing. And this is maybe what happens in government sometimes, but, you know, my goodness.
I sit back and I say, well, you know, it's ironic, at least for myself, that going back if you look at for the press or anybody else who wants to, you go to the March 21st meeting in 2011, and you can go online to the Township of Lower and pull up the minutes, and you can see who stood there and defended the MUA's surplus. Okay. And frankly, there's 2 people on this council who voted to ask the MUA.
Yes, that's the key word, ask.
Okay, well, let me read what you said. Councilman Conrad said he didn't like asking, but he saw it as a necessary evil. Councilman Simon said he believed asking for half was reasonable and not taking all of it. He said it would help get the budget down this year. I mean, you did what you did. You voted to take the surplus, but ironically, I'm in a position now of having to defend from the MUA that they're accusing us of wanting to take the very surplus that I defended 3 years ago. And that's just not true. There's a lot of half-truths that are going on out here.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you about one, Tom. In the Gazette article, you talked that it says merging the LTMUA with Township Public Works is going to cost $3 million. Can you tell me how?
Sure. You're going to have to build buildings. You're going to have parking, correct? Yes or no?
No, I'm not here to, all I'm saying
okay.
is, let me say something to you.
Go ahead.
For somebody who sat back and for the past year has gone ballistic about the exact dollar amount that the police station's going to.
No.
You have no problem in tossing out a number of $3 million. Now, people read that. People read that, and that's wrong. Did you talk to the manager and ask him if we would have to build new buildings down the MUA?
That's a fact.
Did you talk to the Public Works Director and try to ascertain? You're just running and putting things out there, and as a council person, you have an obligation to put out there what is correct. And there's nothing in that is correct. Where is your numbers at? Do you have an architect that drew that up? Did you
We
have
have an
all these?
architect for the police building, and we have yet to get a price.
And you've been very critical of that, but you don't even have the
I did a
architect.
quick
You're just
estimate.
throwing a number. You did a quick estimate.
Yep.
And
just
you
like I
send
gave
it
a
out
quick estimate
there,
at the beginning of the police building.
and you send it
We're
out
getting
there for the
close to my
public to
estimate.
look at. And this is wrong. You have an obligation. Look, like somebody said up here, a wise man said not too long ago, you have a right to your own opinion, but not to your own facts. And mine goes a little better than that. The truth shall set you free, I think, is the correct statement. And I think that it's wrong when you sit back and you put out information. And I've got all that red line, that whole article, but we'll save that. Because I'm telling you, when you put out misinformation, you're going to be called on it. Okay? It's as simple as that. The whole concept that we're getting the MUA to provide police parking was not correct.
So we're not going to use any of the MUA land.
That's not why we're getting the MUA.
Okay, I'm just, okay. That
Okay.
answers.
There's an awful lot. We could go through this step by step, and we will at the next meeting. The truth will be out here. The next meeting involves the bringing of the MUA back as a township department. And if anybody on this council has any questions that they want clarified through the manager, the clerk, the solicitor, or anybody, you are obligated to do so between now and then. Because if you walk in here and do one of them trap doors with different questions and stuff like that, shame on you. All right?
You mean like when the accountant was brought in when we weren't notified?
Get your questions together now, and this thing rises and falls on facts. This is why when we went to the local finance board, I mean, it's so rare that these things are even opposed. They looked at us like, why are we even here? They were amazed at this. And they made remarks like, if the people read the minutes in here, there's an assumption that a township can run an agency like the MUA. I mean, they don't even, most of them are voluntary and they just take them over. We have a battle royal, which brings us back again to, and we'll talk about it some more. Why is it that the fight is so hard to get what seems to be simple? What more could be at the bottom of what a council person, an elected official, is to do than to provide service efficiently and as economically as possible? I mean, that just astounds me when we're sitting here and having to debate over saving money for residents. But that'll be on the agenda for next time. So we'll meet at the train stop there. Okay, so we're off of this now unless anybody else has anything else on it, and we'll go to council comments. Moving down the agenda.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Not too long ago at council meetings, and what we discussed here was described as fluff. We were being, just because we were all partaking, telling everyone how good it is to be in this township, all the wonderful things to live in this township, to come and visit. We got the media to spread the word and any other resource we could. We live in a great place. It's a good place. It's not perfect. It's a good place to raise your kids. It's a good place to retire. Just not great jobs, but now, due to the actions of a few, it's made, council meetings are making it sound like we live in a crime-ridden place, that the police are nonstop. Yet I'm talking to the people in the neighborhood, and they're going, which part of the Villas is this? Because we keep talking to Villas, how bad it is. We need a police station here to provide safety. The problem is, where? The police station, as I said before, is not going to respond. Officers are. And the problem is, all those people we're reaching out to try to get into this township, they're listening and they're hearing. I had one lady said she tried to rent to the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard said they tell their people not to rent in the Villas because there's too much crime. Yet she lived here 31 years. Not one thing happened on her street. She lives kind of close to me. I don't have any issues. We've had issues here and there sporadically, just like any other place. Villas is a good place. Lower's a good place. We have to watch what we say because we are bad-mouthing our homes. I hate to say it, this is all partial to the election process and stuff, but there's more I'm going to go into later. But my position on certain things hasn't changed. We were told in mid-October we will get information on the new police department, these plans and how much the cost will be. That's when I will make my decision on what is happening. It's going to be based on those facts. Plans have been made and changed numerous times, a lot of them due to the questions I've been asking about dispatch and generators and stuff like that. They've been added in. So I guess my questions weren't as ridiculous as people made them sound. We will find out mid-October. Other than that.
Okay, for Ward 2, the Clubhouse Road project, the start date was yesterday. There wasn't any big machinery, and I want to update everybody. They've come out and they've put the gas main mark out, and they did test borings, and they were going to do the drainage at Beverly Road first. The test boring showed that they got to put a 12-inch line underneath the 2-inch high-pressure gas line. So it's at engineering right now because that has to be moved because they don't want to rupture that 2-inch large force main of gas. So school bus drivers, evidently, they've been notified because the drainage work and the curbing work is going to take place first, and the actual milling and paving will be in October. So they won't have to be rerouted for the full 60 days, which South State was allowed to do. So to inconvenience the people as least as possible, and the completion date still is scheduled for November 3rd. The second thing I got was almost along the lines with what Kevin Maloney. I was talking to Stan Hansen, he's the captain on the ferry, and they are getting a 1952 47-foot, what used to be the rollover boat, with a brass keel. They're going to have it moved from Atlantic County to the airport, Eccles. They wanted to get an impervious surface so that there wouldn't be any environmental issues. They're looking for anybody who's a marine architect or woodworking or anything like that wants to pitch in, because just like a lot of the life-saving, it's going to be voluntary, and it's going to be something that they want to get this boat back to running again, put it in some parades, have it functional, take it on the different tours so that it can be a promotional opportunity, and work hand in hand with the life-saving station, because once that life-saving station gets built, that whole place out at Sunset Beach could end up as a pure destination and a great thing for Lower Township. So definitely 100% behind that. And the last thing I got is the master plan by the Lower Township Rec Board, and I see their vice chair there. I had a chance to digest it all, and I do have to ask Tom and Eric, when we voted on a resolution to shelf the sidewalk project, you guys voted against that. Are you still for this number one item on the proposal to build a 6-foot sidewalk?
No, I'm going to listen to what the residents say, but I was backing the rec advisory report that you backed.
No,
for
no, I
how
know,
long?
no, no, I know, I'm
Okay.
just,
That's-
all I'm asking is, are you still for this? No, a lot of people in my ward want this number 1 to be gone. They don't even want to see it in writing.
And we're obviously going to listen to the citizens and go from there.
Okay, and Eric, are you still okay with?
I believe something needs to be done there. You know, what remains to be seen, but
Right, well,
it's
the-
We might
definitely
get
a
a
serious
justice-
issue.
Well, the problem is, and I have further information, that the FEMA maps, now that they're out, 3 blocks of this project, at least, and I don't have the exact where it curves in, the VE zone comes right to the road. So we would be breaking an ordinance, 2014-04, that we passed March 17th, because it says sand dunes prohibit man-made alterations within the V and VE on the community's D firm, which would increase potential flood damage. It's a violation of FEMA Regulation 44 CFR 60.3. It potentially, if it's passed and done, FEMA has warned that it can jeopardize Lower Township's participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, which means nobody in the township will be able to get flood insurance.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's
And
how
again,
dire-
my answer is I believe that area needs to be revisited because of safety issues. That's the same answer I just gave you. I agree with you.
Like I said, I guess, you know, I definitely like back in there where they assumed that the MUA is going to be taken over and that Seashore Road will be available for development, and they're very, very smart in understanding Lauren Reed's information on what we're allowed to bond without a tax increase. So there's a whole bunch in here that's really, really good. But number 1, the first item, I really wish wasn't in there, and a lot of people in my town would not like to see it in there, or at least know that everybody's against it. That's all I have.
All right.
Yeah, well, like I said, I gave you my answer. I believe, you know, something needs to be done there. It's a serious safety issue. Last Tuesday, attended the Irma Fire Department, the commissioners' meeting. The manager and I, you know, we're looking into continue to gather data, talking to elected officials in the Crest, as well as would like to see ongoing meetings with their volunteer fire as well, just to make sure that, you know, there is some concern, and we want to make sure that our citizens in the Diamond Beach and Sea Point sections of Lower Township receive the best possible services they can get as far as fire safety and emergency services. Along with that, just there's a new program at the Lower Cape Regional School District. It's changing a life over lunch. Anyone, if you know any professionals or people in the community that would be good mentors for that, please have them contact Chris Kovic, the superintendent. It's something that is valuable as far as a mentorship program for some of the students there. And last but not least, just remember, school is in session. Please follow the rules of the road as pertaining to school buses. There's obviously more children about on the roads as well, and that's about it for me.
When I listen to Kevin Maloney talk about restoring these old buildings, I think of think of a verse in the Bible that says, "Don't forget the ancient landmarks." And Kevin is one of those people that doesn't want to forget the ancient landmarks. It's important not to forget them, because when you come across them, you can remember what people before you, the young people, can look back and say what the older folks went through and learn something. And we can't get to the present without going through the past. And fixing these things up are going to be a great attraction to us. Kevin's one of those people that believe that he's blessed. Sandy too. She's blessed because they dream, but then they don't just stop at the dream. They pay the price to make it a reality, and that's a long road. Which brings me to the road that led to the Fishing Creek School. Mayor, I want to announce and report that we're coming down to the end of a long road with that you started. I don't know if you all have noticed, but that building keeps getting better and better as you drive past it just up the road. The historic Fishing Creek School, built in 1888 by veterans of the Civil War, We still have some residents that live down the street, 94 years of age, that went to school there, and talk about a day when bullying didn't exist. And I don't know what it was about having 4 grades all together in one room, but kids seemed to, they really did a good job of teaching. And the superintendent of schools, when he went back there, said, you know, we could learn something from the way they used to do things in that old one-room schoolhouse. And I'm so glad you're fixing this place up so that we can continue education programs, early childhood programs, and after-school reading programs. And it's all getting fixed up with a complete bathroom and all the fixtures. Several of us spent this past Saturday over the weekend scraping the paint off of the garage that's next to the Fishing Creek School. The grant, they said we couldn't tear down the garage because that somehow became a part of the total historical package. So this is a school that's owned by the state and leased to the township with the township's promise that they'll take good care of it. And they told us we couldn't tear down that old garage, so we had no choice but to we had no choice but to make it look nice, because we didn't want this ugly eyesore next to the Villas Diner and next to the beautiful new Fishing Creek School. Because on October the 12th, was it the October 12th, is a Sunday. Check the calendar. I want to make sure we get the, I give you the right date. October 12th, I believe, is a Sunday. It's either the 12th or the 14th is the Sunday. What, Jimmy? 12th, okay. On the Sunday, October 12th, we're going to have the grand opening. So I'm giving you a save the date notification about that. And this is going to be the grand opening and the grand ending of a long road, which really began with the mayor. Now, the mayor, as you know, is one of those people that actually reads everything in the files. And one of the things that he read was that the township was obliged, promised, in fact, to take care of the building and make sure it was fixed up. And he invited me to take a cup of coffee and said, listen, I don't want the township to have to spend all, I want to save as much money as we can for the township. Why don't we go out there and raise money to do as much as we can to fix that old building up so we can fulfill our promise to the state. So he rounded up a committee of the willing and formed the Friends of Fishing Creek School. And Eric helped support it and get it started. I believe the entire council was behind it fully. And we raised, I don't know, $20-some thousand to do a lot of the stuff. But thanks to our Cracker Jack grants writer, Colleen Crippen, she figured out that we could fulfill our obligation without spending township money by getting a grant to restore the building with small cities grants, but do it in a way that will make it handicapped accessible. And so basically the building is getting fixed up, and we're getting that new wing, which is providing for a bathroom with a lift, so it's fully handicapped accessible, and now it's going to be fully usable, and it's going to be beautiful. The fixtures that they've purchased to put on the inside, unfortunately the money ran out before they're not going to sand the floor. It's going to be historically the way it was with the marks, the round marks from the old desks are still going to be seen on the floor. We ran out of money without being able to sand the floor, so we're going to have to get permission to see if we can get someone to help us sand the floor. But everybody's going to be invited. First, the folks that got behind it and gave money. There's a lot of folks that are going to have to be thanked. We're going to have a special thank you ceremony, followed by an open house where we're going to, I think, have free beer and pizza and let everybody come through and see all that this place can become. But look at it and think, okay, my goodness, we're going to have early childhood education programs, after-school reading. Some folks might want to get married there if they can't. Maybe the Milburn Center's too large for them.
That's a reception area.
As a reception area, they'll come down to the Fishing Creek School. And we put up a new website to let folks know what's going on there, which is fishingcreekschool.org. And head of all of this band is John Lauterbach, who was out there. He's owner of Geisis Market. He's going to be organizing everything as the chairman of the Friends of Fishing Creek School. But I just wanted to say, Mayor, and this is following on to what Councilman Conrad said, it's important to love our neighborhood and show pride in the neighborhood and recognize what a good thing we have. And I think that by you reading that paper and saying this ought not to be sitting here rotting away, and let's get a committee going, let's get this thing fixed up, and oh, by the way, let's make sure we get the historic byway down this road so that they don't miss it on their way to the Naval Air Station Wildwood. This is really, I want to give acknowledgement to your leadership because you're the one that set the vision. You said, Bus, you were the one with the dream, and then
That was the easy part.
and then you got some other
The
folks
hard
to help
part-
pay to make it a reality.
Yeah, well, yourself and council fully supported this. Council is certainly in the mix on this, but I guess you and John Louderbick back did the yeoman work. I basically just said, well, we have an obligation. We've got to take care of that place. But I just like the fact that it's almost ironic that a building that was created to be used as a school 25 years or whatever later, it's going back to its original purpose, and we're going to be using it for the early childhood programs. And I just kind of like that. I think that's neat, Anyway, we got a couple odds and ends here. One is the September 11th ceremony. That's Thursday next week at Sunset Beach at 6 o'clock, Marvin Hume. That's always a special, very special evening. I mean, hopefully many of you will take the opportunity to come out. We usually have a pretty good crowd. And, if you think you're safe, just look at what's going on in the news, and, it seems like it just doesn't end. So, the September 11th ceremony, next Thursday, 6 o'clock, Sunset Beach. And then we have one of them ones that falls into the category that somebody has to do it, and it's got to be me. Brews by the Bay, which is this Saturday, 4 p.m. on the ferry grounds. It's noon to 4, 12 to 4. And I guess it's live music, crafts, and vendors over there. And I think it's a display, and it's the various and sundry microbreweries that will be located over there. And I'll give you a scouting report.
This is something that Manager Vole and the Recreation Department team really got behind and got to help
Right.
Ryan Krill get off the ground.
Yeah, our own Cape May Brewery, which is our pride and joy and our poster child for economic development, is involved with this rather heavily. So we certainly will support them. With that being said, we'll call to the public.
Mayor, don't you have a bet with the mayor from Delaware? You have
Not yet.
a football game coming up at
I haven't
Lower
got a hold of
Township.
him yet. I'm like,
Lower Township is going to play the team from Delaware for the Cup.
I think the manager's betting the manager, if I'm mistaken, to jump in like in January 1st into the ocean or something like that, one of them deals. Now, we're I guess, when is that? Next Saturday, right? The 13th, is it? What do we have on the 13th? We have something else, too. The football game. We're playing,
The RBA Cup, I think they call it.
yeah, something like that. Okay, well, we have the call to the public. Anybody who wishes to come forward? Yes, ma'am?
Janet Pitts Villas. I actually have like two different areas I wanted to ask about. And the first one was with regard to the MUA, I'm a little confused what Mr. Galzunas gave with advice regarding you are not politicking for the Lower Cape May Regional School funding thing, when it appears that our MUA is doing the same thing by hiring a law firm to create that website to try to get the people to be opposed to dissolving the MUA. Is that not the same type of circumstance?
Just a point of information, I think they've hired a law firm to make their case before the local state finance board. They've hired a separate PR firm.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
Is that not unethical? Is that not politicking, which you're not allowed to do?
They're an autonomous authority.
With
I'm
my,
not sure.
I
but
think we
with,
should ask the solicitor on
but
that.
Yeah.
with my
Do
money,
you want in on this one, Ron, or?
it's ratepayer money they're using.
I think the,
She's right.
the lady has it correct. It's public funds, and I alluded to it earlier when I said that that money, that public money, that ratepayer money belongs equally to those who support the solution as it does to those who oppose it.
I got it.
And I think that when the MUA took the step of hiring a public relations company, and I think we've had the information circulate that was on the website circulated among council and at a prior meeting, where there was clear advocacy to, sign your name to vote no, to say no to dissolution. I think that's right on point when you're talking about advocacy. And this principle of law comes from the New Jersey Supreme Court. In fact, it was Justice Brennan, who was then at that time a justice on the New Jersey Supreme Court. It's an old decision, but it's valid law. It hasn't been challenged, and it stands today. And they address that type of thing directly. In that case, it was Citizens to Protect Public Funds versus the Board of Education of Parsippany Troy Hills. Justice Brennan said that the board made use of public funds to advocate one side only of the controversial question without affording the dissenters the opportunity by means of that financed medium to present their side, and thus imperiled the propriety of the entire expenditure. The public funds entrusted to the board belonged equally to the proponents and opponents of the proposition, and the use of the funds to finance not the presentation of facts, but also arguments to persuade the voters that only one side has merit, gives the dissenters just cause for complaint. The expenditure is then not within the implied power and is not lawful in the absence of express authority from the legislature.
My point.
That's our guiding principle. That's what this council should not run afoul of when it comes time to advocate on behalf of the Lower Cape May Regional School District, and to, I assume the position will be to vote no to change the funding formula.
And yet it appears our MUA is doing exactly that with ratepayer money.
Does appear that way.
Second thing is, as far as the Lower Cape May Regional, the first November election is for what? The withdrawal?
No, it's for the change in funding formula.
Okay, and we don't know the verbiage of that?
We do.
Because is it going to be 100% cost per pupil?
Yeah, it'll be cost per pupil, and it basically says that if the results of the election are yes, the township would see, and it's...
But I mean, they're asking to pay 100% cost per pupil.
Well, it's
in the question.
Basically to switch from property values to cost per pupil, period.
Right.
Okay.
And do we know, as far as the other election, what the apportionment is of the cost of the December 9th election?
Well, that's for withdrawal.
Right, but Cape May wanted it to be a shared cost?
No, we don't have anything on that. I don't think they've done the specific nuts and bolts of that. And in fact, I don't think that they've really solved, correct me if I'm wrong, who's going to pay for it.
So will it go off on December 9th if there's no decision for apportionment?
That's yet to be foreseen.
Pardon me?
That's yet to be the December 9th.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a date, but I mean, there's still a little bit of a squabble who's going to kick into the hat for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, somebody else, a gentleman in the back? Yes.
My name is Peter Wilson. I'm a resident of Lower Township, also a business owner.
Right.
I'd like to thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council, Manager Vol. You're not going to find anybody who's happier to be in Lower Township than me.
Good.
My advertising campaign, the amount of people that are coming in from out of town that are coming to Lower Township for either the first time or haven't been here for years, they only have positive things to say about this township. It's kind of like the undiscovered jewel of Cape May County. I know when I first moved down to Cape May County in the 80s, I moved to Avalon, and I went to Middle Township High School, and there was always some kind of a negative connotation about lower, slower, lower. It was, in high school kind of kid stuff. But I see that trickling on to my adult life, that for some reason Lower Township is different from other townships. And, it's the 4th year that I've been in business, and I see all the positive improvements that the township's done, other businesses, and I see my customers, and I see the development along the bay and the other businesses that are opening up. And like Lower Township is, a really great place to live, to have a business. My kids go to Lower, they're into football. So I just wanted to say, just thank you for being here and the service to Lower Township.
Thank you.
I also have questions regarding the new secondhand merchant policies that have come up. I'm not quite sure, and I guess I'll have to hopefully get together with the new city solicitor and the police department. I've talked to different detectives about what I need to report and what can be left out as far as what I buy and what I sell. So hopefully in the near future I could get together with whoever, because it's all about a safety issue, and I understand that the laws are created to help, the possibility of stolen goods, and I'm all for that. So we have a policy that's in place now where we take IDs and all that, and we've been very, doing very good with it. So with the new laws that have been written, there's kind of a gray area of what do I need to put in, because I'm up and running with the new rapid system. What do you want me to put in there? If an old lady comes in with a dresser, does that go in, or is it just tools and sports equipment and guitars? Is there going to be a dollar sign? The holding period is going to be 10 days. It's very cut and dry for the gold and silver. Even the police department said, well, Pete, if you do a clean out at a house and you buy the whole contents or do an estate sale, it doesn't fall under the gold and silver or the secondhand merchants. But if somebody comes into my store with a chainsaw or a guitar, that needs to go into the rapid system. So I just want to make sure that everybody's, and I have my own ideas as well that, maybe we could bounce back, how to protect the public and myself and everybody the best, and how to be able to use this system to benefit everybody. And like what I tell my customers, and like Lower Township is the first township around that's come up with these good laws to help protect people. So there's what we're doing down here, and what I do is a positive thing. There's no negative connotation to buying contents of homes or buying stuff. We're not a pawn shop, but we buy stuff, and we offer things to the community that were never there. It's a changing economy, and when somebody passes away and you have a house full of stuff, it's a way to reuse, repurpose, relove items. So I just want to be on the same page. I don't want any issues as far as reporting goes, and there's kind of a gray area because I was told I had till the first of the year to become in compliance, and somebody said, no, it was passed. You have to put everything in the computer now. And so I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page and everybody is cool.
Yeah, I mean, you just come in and you can talk with the...
I'm available, Mayor, to spend
Yeah.
some time to...
Whatever it is, it won't be solved here, but feel free to call the manager and to come in and sit down, and we'll discuss it here.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address council? That gentleman back here?
Hi, Jack Sparks, North Cape May. I'm the newest member of the Lower Township MUA. I hope to be the shortest serving commissioner they ever had, but we'll have to wait a little while to see that. I just left the meeting, and if it's at all possible, I would like the township attorney to call the MUA's attorney and ask him what's going on with that. I mean, I'm a member of that commission, and what you just said, I feel that that authority's in violation of the law. And if they are, you know, I want to see it stopped. Is there a way of doing
Well,
that?
I think it's a little late now. They've already
I
done.
mean,
what they
they've
wanted
got
to.
a website and all that. Could,
I mean,
you know, at
that's
least they
all.
could pull it off and
Yeah.
get rid of it. That's what I'm thinking of, and keep them out of it. One of the members suggested tonight that he's recently retired and he's going to work full bore on educating the public of Lower Township to not to dissolve the MUA. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear legally if that thing continues to exist. Is that possible to do that?
Well, for us to call.
I mean, you
I don't
fellas
know.
have to.
I know, you don't want to do
You
that,
fellas
right?
have to.
I mean, if you really wanted to carry this, I guess you would contact the DCA. I mean, being honest about it, right? I mean, if there's a violation of what we're referring to, if it's a.
Well, they have an attorney, and the attorney should have
Their
known
attorney
the law.
should know it.
And he's the one that advises the commissioners what's legal and what's not legal.
And if you feel that he's not listening to you, my advice is pick up the phone and call DCA and talk with one of their solicitors.
And what you heard tonight is a blatant violation of the law.
Yeah, or call the county prosecutor.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Somebody in the back? I can't even see that far. Is it Glenn?
Glenn Douglas, North Cape, May. I actually just came from the beginning of that meeting, and there actually looked like there was a violation tonight. I have a question for Councilman Simonson, who is my councilman, and Councilman Conrad. You guys have been adamant about not having all the information regarding the MUA dissolution. Since now that you have got the information back from the Finance Board, have you had all your questions answered now as far as, you know, I know there's been things that you were not sure of and you needed more information. You've actually specified that in meetings. Have you guys got the information back now that you need?
The part you missed is the mayor wants us to get it with the manager and people in the next few days. That was a foregone conclusion with the local finance board because the township can take over the bonding. There's no question on that, or take over operations. There's some other issues that I will be going to the manager with and see if I can get certain answers.
Okay. Because at this meeting I was just at, the chairman just basically brought up that there's some critical infrastructure problems right now, and whether it, you know, requires using money and causing a rate increase, which we've identified that there's surplus funding that's available to do this work down there. The assuming of the MUA, to me and to a lot of the people I've been talking to in my ward, Ward 3, you're going to get the shared services that everybody's been talking about because you're going to combine the departments. You're also going to get the savings, which has been identified through the Finance Board. And the MUA has had their opportunity to present their case, and they have done so on their part. The township has presented their case. From what the Finance Board is saying, I think it's pretty visible that this needs to go on and needs to be processed, and it needs to be a majority decision here that everybody should be going with this decision to move forward. I think all the facts are there. Everything's been brought forward. Last month at the MUA board, I asked them if any of the board members had taken the opportunity to contact council and work together with council, because all the other dissolutions that you see in the state, the actual board worked with the council to actually process this. There was no answer to that question. But that's my question now to council. Has any of the members of that board come forward now, since they've got the finance information back, finance board information?
No.
To work together on taking this next step as far as moving the MUA into a department?
No,
You haven't received anything?
nothing.
Okay. Just one other thing. I want to thank Mr. Mahoney here and his wife and his group. And I was involved with them way back in the beginning when they were working on it, but they've come a long way. And they're doing a great job down there with and continued support.
Thank you. Does somebody else wish to address council? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Ed Butler from the Villas. As the people in front of me came up and spoke, and Councilman Neville and Deputy Mayor Norris Clark were down at the MUA, as I was, and I brought up in the very beginning of that meeting exactly what was brought up by our solicitor with the public relations thing, and mentioned to each one of them, they're on slippery grounds, that that there is a violation of the Sunshine Law and is illegal because also of where they're going, and they better be careful with that. Also mentioning that the three of them that's on there, the Republican Party or committeemen. Okay, so saying that, and when you get down to it, that to me is a conflict of interest. The other part of it is with what they're doing down there as far as voting on these things. The three of them voted on this resolution that passed to spend that $15,000. The other two that were on the board are off of it. So I'm asking this council to reconsider it, look at them, review this whole thing, and remove them for the board. You guys put them on, you can take them off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else wish to address council? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Fred Long, Cold Spring. Early last month, there was an event in Ferguson, Missouri. I think we all are aware of it. We know about it. We've seen it and whatnot. I learned something after that event. I learned that there's a program in the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, called Program 1033, in which municipalities can receive surplus Army material. And this apparently has produced in some communities in the country an approach to militarization of the police department. Have we in Lower Township?
No, we don't have anything.
You don't have anything?
No. Go ahead, Michael. I looked at it, Fred.
We have some Army surplus trucks, backhoe, whatever, that the county OEM received. They're stored down at our Public Works. Our police department has not applied for any Uzis or anything else. We have in this county the county SWAT team. If indeed there's an emergency situation where there's a hostage or someone with a powerful weapon that has threatening somebody's life. But no, we do not run and we do not advocate a military type police force.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address council? Close the public portion.
Resolution number 2014-252, a resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-12. This is to discuss litigation. We no longer have to discuss the Cape May School litigation, so it's just the Stango versus the Township.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
7